Hello everyone and welcome to my Forgeweaver Araz guide. I just want to be clear that there's a few ways of doing this. You can 3-heal it and play standard, you can 4-heal it and play standard, or you can 3-heal it and pop hero at the start and try and hit the second intermission. I'm not going to be going through that strat. I think it's a bit too difficult at this point in time to hit the DPS check, but it will become easier and easier. Our strat was to 4-heal it and basically go behind the black holes. We had the damage to be able to do that with 4 healers. And the most common strat is 3-healing it. These two strats are barely going to be any different. The only difference being we're not going to go through the knockbacks because we didn't use them. So yeah, I'll go through the assignments and then I'll get into the mechanics and how they've changed from Heroic, okay? Okay, so our assignments are pretty straightforward. So what you'll see is you'll see first soak, second soak, third soak. So I'm sure all of you are using this, and whether you're using Northern Squire or Liquid, they're very similar, so you can take away what you want from it. But essentially what we did is we split the raid for the first and second soak, 10 and 10. We made everyone pop cooldowns on the second soak, a personal, a health stone, something like that, because it just generally was a nasty timing. And then the difference that you might see us do compared to others is on our third soak, we just overloaded it with extra players. We know that that gives more people a heal absorb, but because we were running 4 healers, we felt that we could get away with that. And it meant that the actual damage that came from it was a lot lower. But then obviously more people had a heal absorb. But with 4 healers, that was not a problem. So if you want to pause and see where we've put people, go for it. But this isn't, you don't need to think about this too much, okay? It's just where you put your soaks, and we overloaded the third one. There is only one third one, there's not a fourth, and everybody has it back off cooldown by then, so everyone can soak this one, okay? The CC assignments, what we went for is heavy hunter, monk, and mage. So we had 1 hunter, 2 monks, 2 mages, and then we also had 2 evokers. So we pretty much rotated their abilities, rotating Ring of Peace and using Gravity Lapse when we could. You can see that when there's a certain amount of time in between them, you can have the same mage do it twice, but when they're quite close, you need to use the other mage. And then we'd just have the evokers use like their aggressive roar at certain times. We didn't bother with the pushbacks. There is one there, that shouldn't be there, but we didn't bother with the pushbacks. We just went behind the black holes because we felt we had the DPS to do it anyway, and we didn't really need to worry about optimizing damage on the ads. So yeah, I can link this in as an MRT note, so you'd be able to see sort of who was where and what abilities they were, and you could just replace names of people in your guild if you wanted to. So I'll put that into the little chat bit, okay? And then finally, our DPS groups. So with our DPS groups here, you need to kill the pillars in the intermission sort of within, it's not as hard anymore, within 10 seconds of each other. But essentially with a 4th healer, obviously you need to think about where you're putting people, because what happens is one of them's going to be behind, right? So what we did is we split basically all our locks, our moonkins, our mages, so they could sort of cleave this and this, or cleave this and this. Obviously you don't put your tanks anywhere. And then because they've got a set drop that we'll go through later, and then we put 1 ranged in the middle. What that meant was that normally the melee would just destroy this one anyway, and then that 1 range can just target the one that's short a player anyway. And obviously the 2 heals will be hitting it. But yeah, that's how we set that up, and that's how we set up our assignments. So yeah, I'll put these in the description, and let's look at the fight. Okay, so first thing first, the main thing is you're going to have a black hole spawn that you're going to have to put the ads through. If you don't put the ads through it, they're not going to take any damage, and they're going to absolutely fucking sprint. So essentially what you're going to see here is that a black hole is going to spawn opposite where the, there you go, there it goes. It's going to spawn opposite, so this is what they look like, and it's spawned opposite where the collector is, okay? And then what's going to happen from there is you're going to get ads. You can see it's shouting over people's heads. They're going to go stack behind the black hole. All the ads are going to spawn. They go through the black hole and move 99% faster and take no damage debuff. And we keep them CC'd up on top of the boss, nuke them down. Because there's 1 collector up at this point in time, it's fairly easy, okay? You just deal with 1 set, and then there's the add up, and we're going to get a second collector, and then you're going to have to deal with 2 sets. And you can see where this is going. After that, you're going to have to deal with 3 sets, okay? So now we're going to get another collector here, and we're going to have these discs to dodge. Very important that your tanks, any ones that are going through the boss, your tanks can sort of take. You can see me just moving in to take some there, so they don't hit DPS players. Okay, so you can see it's opposite the one in the bottom corner. I've moved it up here. There's going to be ads spawning. Okay, so I move out because I've got the soak. We've got that sorted. They come through. The other tank moves over, gets the boss. A little bit of crossover with the immunity, but that's fine. And we kill that. And then you can see the next one has spawned in the middle. And you know that the next one's spawning in the middle because there's only 2 up. Okay, so it would have to spawn there essentially. Right, so let's have a look at all 3 from a range perspective, just to make it a little bit more sense. So we're going to look at the triple dodges that are happening into the triple void spawn. So we don't know which collector is going to spawn first. So you just have to have the boss in the middle of the room. Okay, now we can see it's this one, right? So we know we're going to move over there. We know it's one of the other 2 spawning after this. So they get stacked. There's one person coming in late. This one here is very close to not going in that black hole and making us wipe. So it just goes in, and it's obviously ahead of the others because it didn't immune till the very end. So having a DK be the tank that's on the boss is much nicer, or having a DK in general. Anyway, then you can see they move around the bottom, and those people are all stacked behind it with pools. It sucks, but you just deal with it. Again, you CC them up, you stack them on top of the boss. Meanwhile, I'm outside just tanking this ad by myself. And then you go to the last one. Okay, you just make sure you finish them off. You keep the CC rolling. And then the last set come in, and obviously you'll get knocked back during this set to go into the intermission, and you just got to make sure that your DPS do not panic here, and they just focus on killing these ads first before they go anywhere. Okay, so that's what it would look like. That's what it looks like with 4 healers. They're very possible to kill. You do not need to 3 heal it, but if you do, then they'll just die quicker. It's as simple as that. So I just want to explain my tanking job that's different to heroic. So essentially, the first ad should be killed as soon as possible by range. They need to hard swap and make sure that it's dead by the time the second ad comes in, all right? From there, you basically just let the people that can multi-dot it, DPS it, and the tank DPSs it. All I do, while these guys are dealing with all the mechanics, I just kite this boy around and make sure that he's never in range of the boss. Okay, I'm looking around to see when and where and what's getting empowered, and as soon as I see what's getting empowered, I know, okay, well, the one over there has been empowered, so I can move over towards there. I think what you'll see is it actually spawns near me. So I just move the boss down as soon as I can. And then, you know, I'm nowhere near. So after this, I know that that section up there in the top will be free for me to just go back to and just stand there. I don't need to kite anymore. But yeah, so essentially from your 2 tanks, because I was a bit of a useless class, you'd want your DK on the boss so they can grip any manifestations that don't go anywhere. It's dependent on what class you have as to which you want to do, but for us, it made sense for that to be the way around, okay? When you get into the intermission, it's also important to note that you'll still have this ad, okay? And you'll also be tanking a little ad on top of that, okay? So yeah, just keep an eye on your health bar, probably save your personals and stuff for there, but you do get low sometimes because sometimes you're out of range of healers. My job was to go to the first empowered pylon, which is the one that gets a circle around it first. And I would take this ad as close to the pylon as I could and the new ad. And so people could cleave off and you get a slightly increased amount of damage, right? Which is always great. Yeah. So just going into the raid plan for it, you can see that we've marked the collectors that people are going to be on. So you've got cross, you've got blue, you've got skull. They are the collectors that people are going to be on in the intermission, so they know where to go essentially. And as I said, you have one tank that goes to the pylon that gets a circle around it first. So in this instance, it was Skull and I went there. And the other one would go to the pylon that gets the second amount of energy. So the second circle around it first. Okay, so whatever that is. And then once the pylon goes off, the big AoE damage, the tank that went to the first one would then go to the third one. And I'll take you through that when you actually see it, okay? So there actually isn't much to say here for DPS and healers. You obviously will have your people set around in certain places. And healers should do as much damage as they can at the start while the ramping damage is not high. And essentially, it's just dodge beams. It's exactly like the other intermission. You just dodge beams. You have plenty of time to do it. And you try and keep your pylons relatively close together. You don't stop damage to do that. You just hit as much as you can. And if one of them is miles ahead, they might stop for a second at the end. But don't stop during the middle. There's no point in stopping your damage until it's close to a kill, basically. Because you don't want to try and like make the phase go longer and longer. So yeah, it as you can see here, it's just a case of kill them as soon as you possibly can. and be spread out in your groups. Call if one's miles ahead and they might have to pause for a second. And other than that, having the 4 healers does definitely make this phase a little bit easier. I just wanted to go through the tank rotation so it makes sense. So we get knocked back. I'm looking for the first pylon that has a circle around it. You can see that one has a circle around it and the other 2 at the top do not. So that is where I am going to take my ad to. The other tank will be looking for the pylon with the second circle around it. What we do here is I take my Echo over because no one needs to DPS it. It doesn't need to die for a while until it gets to full energy. And I pick up the ad that's spawning here. It's nice it's spawning here. I make sure both of them are on top of the pylon so we can get as much cleave as possible. And eventually this pylon, because it was the first one gathering energy, is going to do a big, so you go, it says raid damage. And it's going to channel into this ad. Okay, and it's going to stun the ad and it's going to do a load of damage to it. I'm now looking around to see where my code tank is. I can see he's up the top. So I know that the third pylon that I need to go to is over here. Okay, so I take it over. I try and get them as close to that as well so people can leave. He's now currently got the big raid damage going off and is coming over to me. He comes over to me here because we swap, because we want to reset the stacks on the ad. And then he would take it off to the next one. We kill it before that needs to happen. So all I need him to do now is just take the ad off of me again so he can stack it on top of the boss with the damage amp. And I just sit here with the Echo. I don't get to have fun and hit the boss, but that is what it is. As long as this Echo dies before it hits full energy, or before you need to tank, you're absolutely fine, okay? And essentially what I'll do from here is I'll just keep playing because it's the easiest. I'll just get this one finished off and there'll be triple dodges, and then I'll go in and I'll pick up the next ad again and I'll pull it back out and I'll do the exact same thing. Okay, so when I go, taunt, go put it over to where it needs to be, wait for the ad to come onto me. Oh, it's on me. I'll have called where I want us to stack. Over to green, get as many people on me as I can, spawn the new ad, off I go again to the corner. And that's that. Okay, so that would be the same thing on both rotations as to how we do it. So I go to the first pylon, other tank goes to the second pylon, you swap on the third one, okay? So if you've optimized enough or you just have the DPS in general, this is the end. This is where you pop your heroism and you basically want to push the boss to 15% in this damage app. Okay, so here it is, and you want to push, push, push. And the reason you want to push it to 15% is because if you do that, he basically will do a second cast. And it will give you longer in the phase. So he's pushed us back. That's absolutely fine. And he's just stood still for a bit, not sure what he's doing. And then he's basically dead by the time we even start this, right? So you get to a corner that's pre-set, you stack in that corner, and that's where you spawn the ads. And then we did 1 ring apiece, followed by a 2nd ring apiece, just to keep them there. And hopefully you really don't have to play this phase for all too long, and it just falls over. Okay. So personally, obviously, I'm biased to the way we did it. I think that not having to deal with any pushbacks and learning someone stood in the wrong direction, a pushback going to the side, all that kind of stuff just made it quicker for us. But obviously, if you can heal and you nail that straight away, it will be a quicker kill. Also, if you can 3 heal and push before second intermission, it'll be a quicker kill. We picked the safest and most reasonable thing for our team because we felt like we had a fair amount of DPS and we could get away with a 4 heal and it would just make prog easier. But do what's right for your group, essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll chuck those things into the description, our notes, and thank you very much for watching, and thank you to everyone that helps. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.